Yeah.
But if you don't get quality, the problem with quality, it's so hard to define what quality is. Because sometimes quality is mere idealism. And quality becomes a problem if it's based on previous sexual encounters.
Is sex still fun with the same person all those years?
Sex is a subset of what we call intimacy. We're made to connect at 3 levels. At the spirit man, at the soul man, the way you feel your emotions, and then at the body.
When you guys got married,
Yes.
did you have it figured out?
Your wife is so different from your girlfriend. And your girlfriend is so different from other girlfriends you could have slept with.
Actually, for ladies, it's about feeling loved, feeling, accepted, feeling like someone sees me. Sometimes you don't have to have solved an argument or a disagreement and agreed on it and to have sex. Because sometimes you might not agree on something for a very long time.
Take a while.
Babies cries
In the middle.
in the middle. Affairs don't happen physically. Affairs happen emotionally first before they go physical.
This video is one that you want to watch. We're touching on a topic that you are always wondering about. We're talking about sex. Sex in marriage. These guys have been married 13, almost 14 years. Is sex still fun with the same person all those years? Or has it now become routine? We are hosting Paul and Irene Luguza again to answer some of these questions that we have on sex. Welcome, Paul and Irene.
Thank
you, Daisy and Mark.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment below if you have another opinion. And so, let's start right away. Paul and Irene.
Yep.
What does it mean to be naked and unashamed?
Daisy earlier spoke about sex, and then Mark brings up a word that is very heavy, naked and unashamed. I will contain myself to bring it back to what Daisy said. Yeah, because it certainly means a lot more. Sex is a subset of what we call intimacy. And part of the reason we get married and the greatest benefits for marriage are in that word, intimacy. You know, when we go into communication, conflict resolution, and all these other big words we like to use around marriage, at the end of the day, we are looking for the level of vulnerability that allows someone into our space to see us as we are, take us for what we are, and grow with us. So when you talk about naked and unashamed, I need to manage myself from the broader definition. Because
So when we say naked and unashamed,
Yes.
we mean naked and not ashamed, right?
yes,
But
Okay.
in a broader context.
But in the
away from
broader
sex.
context, it's not just the physical.
Right.
Strange though, if you have a great level of intimacy at the other levels we live our human lives, you know, which, you know, most of us know spirit, soul, body. You know, at those levels, the body, it's much easier.
Yes.
You know, many times people start relationships from the body. And the guys and ladies are looking for different things.
Yeah.
Guys are looking for the body,
Yeah.
the physical, the excitement, the pleasure. You know, ladies are looking for the connection. Yeah, I mean, of course, that has to be tested within different contexts.
Yes.
You know, but there is a sense in which guys go for sex just for sex. You know, ladies go for sex to connect with a man. So after the sex, the man has moved on. The lady wants to stick around to connect, to
Cuddle.
yeah, sometimes even in marriage, you find that ladies want to use sex as a moment to talk about very serious
Issues.
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
Why?
And you, as a guy, you're
Like,
wondering.
before we do this, can we
Yes.
talk about this?
That's it.
Because now you feel connected.
Mark Ganga said all the time your blood has moved from the
brain.
big head to the small head. So you have no blood for thinking. It really speaks into our innate needs. The innate need of connection, intimacy, and what we normally look for. Sometimes a lady thinks through sex I will hook a man. Through sex we are connected. Of course the guy wants the sex. Of course you'll hook him, but will he stay? Will he come along and stay? That's why we talk a lot about sex before marriage and say how dangerous it can be, because we were meant to connect at 3 levels: at the spirit man, at the soul man, the way you feel your emotions, and then at the body. When these levels are interchanged, it becomes very hard. When you do body first, it's hard to connect at soul and spirit level. Because at soul level, there's a soul tie already, so you cannot think very logically. You're already tied to the man in many ways, because sex has a powerful effect of tying you to someone. So if you're talking about naked and unashamed, it's broad. It's 3 dimensions, but I have a sense that we may be talking about 1 dimension today.
Okay. That's it's important to know the real definition of being naked and not ashamed, because some people imagine we are of course naked and we are not ashamed of each other. But you've brought it out so beautifully. So now, when you guys got married, did you have it figured out?
It being sex.
The intimacy or the naked and not ashamed of the body?
Let's stick to that dimension.
Did you guys have the whole act of
Figured
out?
Oh, wow.
Or,
yes. Normally, those who think they've figured it out
have not.
When they get there, they're like, "Oh, a sorrow." Honestly, one of the things I remember I learned from famous guy, not really, Stephen Langer, Family Life Network. With the time we asked a question about sex, in one of the youth workshops it was at campus, and we were saying, how do you get married? You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know if you're compatible. That's the most famous question. How do we know if we are compatible? Yes. I never forgotten a couple that broke up because they felt incompatible, and I'm like, wow, what do you mean by incompatibility? So the thing is, he said something that up to now I appreciate and I always share with other people. Sex is a language. And when you're getting married, you're going to learn the alphabet. So if a guy has been sleeping around with other women and then they get married, there is a presumption that you can borrow that knowledge or your previous experience into your marriage bed. Then you get to discover, hey, we're not meeting in a dark, rushed hour. Everyone is ready.
That adrenaline
being cold. You discover, because they always say that the first sexual encounter imprints on your mind as a background and reference for your next sexual encounters. The reason premarital sex becomes a problem is before you get married, there are so many things not disturbing your world. This is just, we're meeting each other at a restaurant and we are happy. We're not considering who is going to lay the bed. We're not considering, who is going to cook the food. There's no baby crying. There is. So the whole context of sex outside marriage and the sex inside the marriage are totally 2 different contexts. And one of the things we do, I mentioned in one of our earlier shows about a Koja session, is we tell guys, have you slept around or not? Please unlearn all you have learned and go in with an attitude of a student. Because your wife is so different from your girlfriend. And your girlfriend is so different from other girlfriends you could have slept with. So you're going to deal with a totally different woman. Different hormones, different, maybe the time you even could have slept together, she was happy, she was in her mood or a moment, everything was going well. Now you're going to deal with the other 35 days of the month. Allow me to say 35.
35.
And she's not that happy.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with that? So there is a sense of, did we have it figured out? Of course not. We are open. We are ready to learn. We went in with this attitude, we shall figure it out. We have a whole lifetime to figure it out. Yeah.
Was it the same case for you, Irene? Or for you were ready? Someone trained me or whatever.
Oh my god. Actually, I think towards the end of our wedding day, I mean, the thought of it gave me a
Unaccepting.
headache. As in, like, seriously, I got into panic, then headache, then I didn't want anyone talking or joking about that.
And people like doing that.
And people like doing that, like, as the day is ending, they start telling you what is going to happen. and I'm thinking, my God, I don't want to talk about this. I mean, like, let's not even joke about it.
Let's enjoy
You know?
Yes.
And yet it's the reality. And it was so funny how when we were relating, you were looking forward, you were like thinking, oh my God, there is that time when there will be no boundaries, but that day, man, as in all those positive emotions and butterflies and what, towards the end of, I mean, it just
And the singers
flew
do
away.
a good job to get you afraid.
I think they tell you so many things that you think that, my God, what is this?
What am I signing up for?
What am I signing up for? So I remember we went to honeymoon. Okay, I mean, I'm going to be a bit open. We went for honeymoon, and trust me, we had not figured it out. Even with all the preparation, I think in my mind I was very afraid, very, very afraid for some reason. I think because of the so much knowledge and things that you'd had from people, or maybe you'll experience pain, maybe you'll experience. I just, I was afraid. That's what I can say. So we didn't figure it out. Not the first night, not the second night. Like, maybe we consummated our marriage like 4 days after our wedding. So even with all the excitement before, we got there, and yes, it was a slow process of figuring it out. And
I like that we are having this conversation, because many people think wedding night, you know how the movies are, wedding night.
Yes.
We consummated the marriage.
And it has
Remember,
to be
for us,
figured
it
out.
took us 6 days or
No,
longer.
you don't say here. This is there.
I say we beat the record.
So for couples, new couples, newly wedded couples, when you get there and you find that you haven't figured these things out, don't think that you're abnormal or you're not sexually compatible. Sex is something that you learn even years later.
One of the most famous statements I love about compatibility is it's not how compatible you are, how much it's not your level of compatibility, as it is your willingness to deal with your incompatibilities. And this is true for sex and every area of marriage. If you go in, we're not compatible, of course you're not. You grew up from a different family. You are a man, she's a woman, so of course you're not compatible in many ways. But are you willing to deal with your incompatibilities? That's where the rubber hits the road.
Irene, I want to come back to you because I think this one is something we need to understand. Especially wives, when they're angry, there are those who are okay with. I mean, different couples are different, but a lot of wives. If you guys have argued, there's nothing that's going to happen.
The door is closed. Sleep on your side of the bed.
There's no sex happening.
Yes.
So, can you actually do it when you're upset? Is it okay to do it when you're upset?
Possible?
Is it possible? Can you unlearn that? Or is it even, allowed to? Or you need first get out of the being upset and then, you can do this happily. Okay,
there are two ways of looking at that. the first, and which is our experience, and we've learned later on also another experience, and I'll tell you about it. But the first being, yes, sex to a lady many times is not just physical, but it's an emotional connection. Actually, many times before you have sex or before we have sex, we are thinking, okay, for me, I'm like, I like something that kind of connects us. Like, let's cuddle, let's do something together. Listen to a nice song or tell me something. You get it's
Sad work.
I think it's an emotional.
The blood has already left.
No, not yet.
Before that blood starts to leave, don't let it leave before we feel together and connected. Actually, for ladies, it's about feeling loved, feeling accepted, feeling like someone sees me. Because sometimes, for guys, it can even just be so physical, and ladies want to be seen. They want to be loved. It's a journey. Sex for us is a journey. It's not just with the end in mind. What was the question again? Okay, and then I said to have it when you're upset.
Yeah.
So when you're upset, you're not feeling emotionally connected at that point. So it might be a bit hard, although the second part is what I was telling you that we've learned through the years is sometimes you don't have to have solved an argument or a disagreement and agreed on it and to have sex, because sometimes you might not agree on something for a very long time. So it's an art for you to just shelve it and leave it in the shelf and then manage your emotions and compartmentalize something like that, because guys have the need, and ladies also have the need to want to connect with their husband. So you can't lose a whole season because there's something.
3 months we are still fighting over this. So
and because there are some issues in life, the journey we walked for the last 14 years now, there's something that you cannot resolve in a week or in a month, but you're not going to say that, okay, for that month we will not
we're out of business.
Yes.
But there's also a side to it of what comes first, the egg or the chicken. It's real. It's so real, because there are times when you are angry because you've not had sex.
Yes.
And all the issues, because it's like it's a strange effect. The guy is angry. He's angry with you. And oh my God, we can resent our women when there is no sex. It's a strange thing. I don't even understand. You just look at this woman. You've not given me sex. I'm going to harden up. I'm going to focus on my work. There is that level of tension that builds up when you don't have sex in a marriage. So sometimes it's the question of the egg of a chicken. Which one comes first? So sometimes by having it, everything
is resolved.
The issues are resolved, So I think it's one of the things you learn. And then also, in the first years of marriage, because right now where we are now, the kids will not cry in the night, or there's a totally different scenario. In the first years of marriage, you have a different dynamic. Very different dynamic, that a lady can be upset all the time, not because of you. But because of what's happening in life. Pregnancy can be one of those. It can be she can't sleep well at night. She's always tired. Child, you have one child and they're always waking you up in the night. The finances are stressed. So much is going on. So there is external stress that comes to the marriage that can naturally make a lady coil back. And close off and blame you for closing off when it's not you. It's just the seasons of the marriage. The first 3-4 years of marriage, God bless you guys in that area. But it's not that easy. So there are times I remember we had to negotiate. Can we just do it mechanically? Because honestly, you're the only one who can solve my problem. I am stuck to you. So there's a bit of negotiate. You kind of have to work through, even when the emotions are strained. For the sake of man, I'm the only one who can serve this man's needs.
So on that point of, can we just do this?
Yes.
Because you're the only one who can sort out my need.
Yes.
when it comes to, because life happens,
Yes.
like you said,
Yes.
kids come in.
Yes.
Now, you guys, 14 years,
Mm.
there are school runs, there are
Projects.
there's traveling,
Yes.
there's school
Wow.
maybe, then there are these, assignments. How do you keep up this vow? How do you maintain this vow? All I have is yours. All that I give to you, you know.
How do you maintain the sex?
Or do you now have a schedule?
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday,
Yes.
Friday.
How do you?
How do you do
Actually,
that?
there's a season when we did that, and I think it was in
Pregnancy and
the season
children.
of pregnancy and children, because there are some seasons as a woman, you feel, I mean, you have those butterflies, the hormones, and especially when there's no pregnancy, breastfeeding, and what. Yeah, so
Even
those
pills,
seasons come.
some hormonal pills.
Yes. So there's a point in our marriage when we decided that even when I don't feel like it, we are going to just do it. So it helps you also prepare in your mind and be like, I mean, it's not like a chore, but it's funny how we can do so many things as ladies, and then forget that.
Except
Except the one, especially when, and you feel justified because, I mean, you're just one. A baby needs you. There's a baby in the tummy that is also, you know, I'm stressing you out in terms of your, you know, your levels of energy and enthusiasm. Yeah, so, but when you plan and you're like, let's schedule it. There are those times. There are even those times when you'd be like, okay, it might not be served hot. I hope you don't
just
mind.
accept this lukewarm
this
meal.
is the lukewarm meal that I'm giving you.
It will not always be like
It
that.
will not always
Yeah.
be, you know, hot and sizzling, but this meets the basic need. Those hot and sizzling seasons will also come, but it's good to recognize the seasons that you're in and work with the seasons to make sure that you meet the need.
So now, Irene, you have a lot to say. So I'm going to ask you
Has even she answered that question of balancing out now?
Yes. So which leads me to the next question.
Yes.
Is it still fun after all these years? Now it's 14 years. Is it still fun?
And you're still busy now with kids that are older, they need help with homework, you're picking and
Yeah,
dropping.
the beauty now, before Irene answers the side of the lady, the beauty now is you don't have those rude interruptions. Because babies cries
in the middle.
and the way in which a lady is attached to that cry,
Yeah, you can't continue.
they can't they switch off.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a man you've worked so hard, you've lifted
To
the
get her to
heaviest
this
weights,
level.
and there it is, it's dropped.
Yeah.
Those are annoying.
Yeah.
They are really annoying. Right now, it's when your last born is about 2 years.
6 years, you mean?
No, when your
2
last
years,
born is
okay,
about 2
okay.
years. When they cry, you can ignore. It's a big boy. It's not the world. The world is not crashing. Before that, you may not ignore.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's easier now.
Yeah.
It's way easier now because even though you're busy, your schedules always touch. So you'll be aware. I'm traveling tomorrow. You're traveling the next day. There is that unsaid routine. It's not as mechanical as it was in the beginning, but trust me, I honor a man who does it mechanically and the lady who accepts it mechanically for those seasons. Because it's a survival kit. If you look at affair periods, they are normally pregnancy, toddler ages. Those are normal affair periods. Because ladies assume, I'm pregnant.
He understands.
He understands. They forget that the man's hormones are the same.
Yeah.
He's still boiling the same red blood. And then you're demanding more from him. The process of turning from husband to father is painfully horrible, but yet beautiful and rewarding. So it is an interesting mix. So even as a lady turns from wife to mother, there is a switch that happens in those moments that sometimes we can't explain to people. Sometimes we tell ladies that we are equally pregnant because we are going through your emotions. We are going through, a hospital run. Some people have difficult pregnancies. The lady bleeds a bit or false contractions, and you are in a mix of all those emotions. That's why I never used to understand why miscarriages were so painful. I never used to. Before I got married, then I got married. this is what they go through. You know, you can't take the lady out. Your routines are messed up. Juice, water, everything makes her nauseated. You know, there's so much you cannot understand till you walk through it. You know, so dealing with that on the marriage bed, if your survival is mechanical, do it. But don't allow yourselves to be overly tempted beyond pressure. There's what we call in marriage terms quickies, which are just to serve the need of release and move on. You know, it's not for emotional connection. Whatever you can serve it in those moments for the sake of your marriage.
So, at 14 years,
Yes.
now we are making 6.
Yes.
When we get to 14, will it still be fun?
Way more,
Mm-hmm.
depending. The first years are tough, but they are the foundation building. The building blocks of your marriage are in those first years. Have you learned to communicate? Have you learned to negotiate? Have you learned to speak into who you are? Right now we deal with a different set of dynamics. The level of business, the level of work, you know, we're dealing with a different set of dynamics. But because we learned to speak to each other, to call each other out, to know how to mention a need without nagging each other, we are able to. So it's much easier. We know each other a lot better, you know. And so right now, sex is not even just, you know, cuddling was the hard mountain, the hard work. Where you know that you've been married long when you begin missing the cuddling as a guy. You know, like when you begin to enjoy her world, and you're like, oh my God, I'm becoming a girl. You know? So it rubs onto you. It gets way better. You know each other's bodies better. So you know you have 14 years worth of knowledge. If you've been practicing, for goodness sake, you'd certainly know much better about each other. So it does get better, but if you get the other steps. That takes us back to where we started. Spirit, the soul, the connection, the intimacy. If you are that intimate, it gets better. If you're not, it's the other side. Yeah, you can be so apart and housemates. Yeah.
Yes. Irene, you've been with this person for 14 years. You know every scar. You know what doesn't work. How do you avoid the boredom that can come from that familiarity? Like, there's nothing new. I know where to touch, and then he's going to react like this, and then we'll be done.
I even know the time of the day.
No, actually, it's so funny, but we are still learning, even at 14 years. It's just that we, because of time, we have grown in our knowledge of each other, in our knowledge of our expectations from each other. Even in our communication, we've grown. So some of the things that would cause you, you know, a lot of tension, a lot of heartache, even because, like I said before, sometimes sex to a lady can you know, be ruined or made by what they feel about the guy
In that moment.
in that moment.
Yeah.
You then learning each other and how to manage our expectations, becoming better in our communication has helped us to have a better sexual life, because you can't kind of separate the two entirely, especially for a lady. Yeah, I was saying that sometimes in the act, even our memory of how rude they are to you, that they can just, you know, turn you off and all that. Yeah. So what I can say about if it is how we feel about it now, and in the past, has it become better? Yes, it has become better. Mainly because we've learned each other. We have learned how to work through our conflicts, because for ladies it's connected. We have learned what works for us, although we also realize our preferences keep changing.
They have changed.
Yes, they keep changing. We are dynamic, just like everyone is, but it is better. In summary, it is better
so it
now.
means there's hope.
Yes.
Like if you're, say, 2 years married, 3 years married, or 1 year married, and things are bad, there's hope.
If you're willing to work through and learn. Because there are two major conflict points. of sex.
Mm.
And maybe before I go there, I'll mention something here. We are still intentional around making memories together. I mean, so you have to think creatively, especially if you've used your early years to work through the things that really stress the marriage. You know, finances are major.
Yeah.
You know, you reach, as you grow older, you might even fail as a man to you have your big head out or your small head out because of finances. So if you build capacity and you've grown through the 10 years and built these foundations, it's easy to spice up. It's easy to take your wife out and build these memories around. Do things together. You know, one of the things we enjoy, even when I'm a best man or when she's a matron, is we renew that sense of, you know, you connect again, you know, so you need those moments. So you've got to be intentional. It doesn't just happen. Yeah, I like to read. There's still something to learn.
Yes.
There is still something to try.
Yes.
There is still something. So also depending on personalities, there's also this whole topic of personality and sex,
Yes.
you know, but the earlier you learn each other and build around it, you know, it really is very helpful. Yes. Yeah, back to what I'd said, the two major issues you struggle with, you know, and written all about in many books, frequency and quality. Those are tight papers. But if you don't get quality, the problem with quality, it's so hard to define what quality is. Because sometimes quality is mere idealism. And quality becomes a problem if it's based on previous sexual encounters. That is where it's a problem.
Not with your spouse.
Not with your spouse. So sometimes we tell people, if you're struggling, check, did you have sex before marriage? With your spouse or with someone else? That can cripple your sex life properly. So you'll be thinking quality. No, it's not quality. The movie stars you're seeing are acting out, my friend. You know, no one is going to tell you what's happening in their bedroom. You know, every man comes out looking like they're a star. Only their wives know. Only their wives know if they are stars. So the question of quality is sometimes a question of unlearning previous expectations and learning with your spouse. The expectation, your spouse is the best for you. You know, so you know, want to manage that one as early as possible. Frequency is where there has to be a lot of negotiation. You know, when there are health challenges and all those dynamics. Also remember, you don't have a lot of time, you know, because tomorrow you grow old. It's so, 14 years speed by so fast, you know, so there are things you need to work in there, you know. Exercise is very good. As guys, as ladies, being fit is very, because sex takes a lot of energy. Yeah, when you're young, you have a lot of energy. As you grow older, you need to plan it out, you know. So plan, be intentional and connect. If you need a program, plan it. If you need call it going mechanical, do it. But you need sex in your marriage.
Yeah. So I want to throw in this question at this point.
Yes.
There is a saying that before you travel, make sure you get some. Whether
before you get
whether
married, yes.
No. Traveling individually.
Yeah, so
travel.
So let's say you're married.
Yes.
Okay, you're going for, you know, for a trip
Yes.
abroad or whatever.
Yes.
Country. There's that saying or advice that is around that make sure, you know, your husband gives you some, or make sure your wife gives you some, depending on who is traveling.
Yes.
What is that?
What's your take?
Yeah.
Getting some doesn't mean you won't have desire. Getting some is very helpful because it's the last memory. But what I've learned is, because the whole idea is to make sure you don't cheat on your spouse when you are away from them. The idea of, you know, fidelity during travel is not just that sex before you leave. It's very important, but it's also the systems you built around yourself. When you get my phone and you look at the lock screen or the screen, the wallpaper for the main screen, you're going to find Irene's photo there. In the moment, I'll be telling you about my wife. You know, when I travel, I'll be waving my ring in your face, or because if you don't build those systems around you, trust me. Like I told you earlier, like I mentioned earlier, it's one plane is love, the other plane is lust. So sorting love doesn't mean you've sorted lust. Those are totally two different worlds. So being aware of that, you have to be very, people need to know. Recently I was in Rwanda, and people are giving me their profiles of the Ugandan engineers who go there, and they're like, that one we know, sharpshooter. This one we know. And people get to know, we know. You always talking about your family. If they tell you, what are you missing? Like, I love your country, but I'm missing my family. So you, as over the years, you have to build the safeguards. Because if you don't build the safeguards, imagine you left home and you didn't have. Or she was sick.
But even if you had, it doesn't stop you.
It doesn't stop you. So it is important, but it's not the reason you stay faithful to your spouse.
Paul, you have brought us to the last question.
Yes.
Which I want to ask Irene. Okay, both of you.
Yes.
And you know what the talk out there is, you can have a nice relationship at work, like a nice sweet relationship at work.
They call them work wife.
Work wife and crushes.
There are those nice crushes. Let's call them that.
Innocent.
Nice, it's a nice relationship that you can have at either the workplace or out of home. It doesn't necessarily have to be at work. Sometimes it can even be at church. Sometimes it can be at wherever. The question I have for you is, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with
outside of your marriage?
Yeah, is it even okay? Because I mean,
it seems natural.
There's some, especially.
Yes.
I think it seems to be easier for the women. They get to work and they just have this guy that they really love, but they are married. They have this liking for them. But at home they're married, and at home they are a good wife. But at work there's another relationship. Is it allowed? Is it okay? And how do you deal with it if you ever found yourself in a situation like that?
It may not even be another complete relationship, but it's just that feeling like this person has walked into the room and now you're trying to make sure you're okay. But the butterflies are flying in your tummy. Do you tell your wife? Do you confide in your boys?
So what I could say, and maybe that's also a bit of my experience, is I share a lot with my husband, by the way. It's the funny thing, we do share a lot. Even the kind of, okay, maybe not so much me crushing on someone, but the crushes I have from work. I don't necessarily refuse Paul to access my phone. He doesn't need to, but sometimes when he does, and sometimes I know because he reminds me, hey, Irene, this one sent you a message and you didn't respond and what. But maybe that, yes, I can access his phone. It's just probably, and he knows I don't get time to do that because I even miss the communications on my phone, and this one reminds me. So what was I saying? Yes, about the crushing on at work, if it's okay. I think for me, I am committed to Paul. You get, so maybe because of once in a while you've had an argument at home, or something is not so right, yes, you can be drawn to somebody else at work for even 1 day, 2 days, or even a week, because you are with them in the field. You find them yourself talking more to them, and maybe even sharing a heart-to-heart moment. But at the back of my mind, I know it can't go so far. I am committed to Paul. It's something that I settled in my mind, and he's my portion. Whether he disagrees with me at some point, is angry with me, or I'm angry with him, and I know that he's stuck. Yes, I'm stuck with him. I am committed to him, and he's committed to me. So
so what you're trying to say is, they happen, or they can happen.
Yes, actually they can happen.
And they should happen.
No, not should.
No.
But
The
it's inevitable.
question is not whether they happen or not. The question is, what do you do with
Yes.
them?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so maybe guys are more of the culprits. You know, ladies are thinking about their kids quite a bit. No, nowadays a lot is happening, especially
Yes.
when we
Yes.
men are not doing a good job.
There's this
Yes.
person who walk into the office,
Yes.
nice colon,
Yes.
smartly dressed.
Yes.
So you'll be such a fool thinking
Yes.
that your wife doesn't have those crushes. That should not be normal. You know? Yeah. So the question is, what happens when they happen? You know. So personally, I've learned. Irene mentioned it in one of our earlier calls. Is watch your heart. We have. I like to call them attraction codes. There are people who are attracted to us, and people we're attracted to generally. So someone in the shape of your wife will show up sometimes, you know, with the sense of, you know, of course, without the baggage of the pains you may be going through in that moment. You know, so the idea here is not that you don't get to crush on them. The idea is watching what's happening inside. Am I paying attention here? Am I giving them extra, you know, time? You know, I've learned to manage myself, you know, like, because you can go. Have you had a man sleeping with house girls?
Yeah.
You know, it's very possible for your heart to go. So I watch the investment. Is it time? Are we getting ourselves in moments where we are talking? Am I desiring to talk more to them than to my wife? The issue here is not whether we get crushes. The issue here is what we do with them. If in a marriage you can build capacity to be as transparent as possible with your spouse. I mean, Irene and I joke a lot about it. You're driving and you see a hot girl. For goodness sake, you are a man. It's okay to tell your wife, okay, I don't know if it's okay, but it's something you discuss together. If you're free with that information, your wife sees you like, oh my God, that girl is pretty. She's in a hot dress. Sometimes nowadays, as we grow older, even with the kids, you're like, that girl is not dressed decently. You know? But you're trying to vent it out so that someone knows you're normal. But with all that, but remember, trust is earned. It still goes back to the other question of premarital sex. If you did not sleep with me when you had all those chances before you married me, it's highly possible that I can trust you not to sleep with other women because you're attracted to them. So if you have that level of trust, when your trust is broken, if your guy was just, you know, he gets drunk and loses himself, when he tells you such a story, of course you'll shoot him, you know, because we are human beings, and we are also very sober-minded people. So what you've been investing in, you know. So the other thing I was mentioning earlier was the part of watch your heart. No, affairs don't happen physically. Affairs happen emotionally first before they go physical. So check your heart. Am I finding that I'm enjoying someone's company more than I'm enjoying my spouse? What is going on with my spouse and that other person? Because the Bible says that where your heart, where you invest, where your treasure is, your heart will be. So where you make investments, your heart will go. So if I'm making small investments at work with someone, my heart will naturally go. So for me to stop my heart from going, I check my investments. I check the time I'm spending, the money I'm spending. If I'm finding myself picking that person out every time we're having lunch, there's a problem. I need to begin watching my investments, creating spaces, because your heart can be turned from your spouse to someone, or it can be turned from someone back to your spouse. That's what I would say about that.
Wow, we've learned so much from you guys. And I don't know, is there something, what's like that last thing that you've learned that you're going to implement in our bedroom?
Scheduling. Compartmentalizing. I think the biggest lesson, babe, is compartmentalizing. Because for me, when something is not okay, I hold on to it. Like it really affects every area of my life. So compartmentalize.
You shelve something
Yeah.
until further notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that further notice is also defined. Babe.
Yeah.
It's not indefinite.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Until further notice.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Paul and Irene, for your time.
Yeah.
This is such valuable information that we really would like to share with the rest of the world. And if there's something that you would like to add to this conversation, just comment below and leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.